Rightio, welcome back to the lab. Another bit of a video update, a little bit of a diary style one this time. No awesome action, sorry, no race cars going, no loud motors, nothing like that. But what we've been doing, we've been cranking along with the Gloria, 1969 Gloria, Nissan VK5060E with a supercharger. And to run that, we're going to use a Link Extreme G4 Plus ECU, and we're using the factory harness that comes with those from Link. So I've been in there just wiring that up, just placing all the wires as carefully as possible. There's no insulation on anything at the moment, as you can see. We're just trying to keep it as tidy and I guess hot roddy as possible. You know, you don't want harnesses hanging around all over the place, so they kind of be tucked away a little bit as much as possible. A lot of this stuff, coil packs and everything, they've just, I mean, that's it, isn't it? They're there, so you can't hide the wires too much. Obviously with some black insulation around all these, all tucked together nicely, they'll be somewhat more aesthetically pleasing than what you see there. So, going over here to this little beastie. This the rest of this video will have some edited stuff on there from fixing some things, and this goes back a little while. This car has had a let's turn this around. This car's had a misfire from about February, I'd say. It seemed quite down on power compared to what it should have been. You could bump up the fuel pressure and the misfire would clear, but it still just didn't really feel like it was pulling as hard as it should do for a car that was in theory 400 kilowatts or thereabouts. So the video goes on. I'm no Steven Spielberg, so it's not the best, but it goes into some details of what we found when we were in there trying to fix the car. And one thing that's popped up after the rest of this video, so we get in there, we sort out a couple of problems, and then there's also been a coil pack stalk has been faulty as well. So just when you think you've got to the end of it, it's one of those little puppies is causing trouble as well. So it's a little bit hard to do with one hand while I'm holding the camera with the other. Hang on, we'll get there. Underneath the silicon sleeve there, you can see there's a crack that's been eroded by the spark jumping from the electrode on the inside underneath that and out through that tiny little pinhole at the bottom there. So that wouldn't have helped. That was one issue. There's another issue that we had. So that was one issue we had. So yeah, it's a bit of a saga. It's a bit hard to piece it together and make sense out of it if you haven't been following the lab on Facebook. So you should probably do that if you're really interested in details. And I'd just like to say I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. Nobody is, you know, in the firing line for being not doing their job properly or any dumb rubbish like that. We don't want any of that. This is just about a race car that's had some niggly problems, and we've got to the bottom of it, and yeah, everyone's happy. So hopefully I'll splice this together nicely and it makes a good video. If it doesn't, bad luck. Sorry about that, and we'll try and do something better next time. Okay. Hey guys, right, welcome to a bomb site. You will have seen in the previous video we had some bank-to-bank mixture issues with the little beastie here, and we kind of just tuned our way around that in the meantime. We weren't entirely certain what it was, suspected it had something to do with the inlet manifold. It was a bit more serious than that, and we've found the issue. So local dyno fella, we found a bit of time on his dyno, and I went there with the pretense that we're going to find out what the hell is wrong with this car, what is going on, because it's terrible. So there is a hell of a mess here, because I've got in here and destroyed the car. So
the bits flying everywhere in there, rattle gun and all. It wasn't a great deal of care taken. It was just ripped apart as quickly as practical to see what was going on. And amongst all the mess there on that bench is a very big clue as to what's going on. And we're getting closer and closer to that clue. And that, people, is the end of the left-hand inlet camshaft. It has quite literally snapped off, and it's left the trigger wheel sitting in the head, and it's also dropped a lobe off the camshaft. So 401.99 kilowatts with one variable cam system defunct, not working because it didn't have a trigger wheel to know what its targets were, where it was going, and also a valve, a sleep inlet valve. So actually a 23 valve motor. That's why the bottom end was missing about 100 horsepower at about 3,500 RPM. So yeah, like I said, bomb site. There's crap everywhere. I just ripped this puppy apart to see what was going on. We've got it sussed now. Our good buddies at Nissan King, Isuzu Parts World, have given us a new camshaft. There it is there, all wrapped up next to the other one. And you can see they're a little bit different in length because that's missing. So there you go. That's been the deal. That's been like that, I would say, at least 10 months. That's like probably failed just after Leadfoot 2019, because the car had heaps of grunt at Leadfoot. You could see in the videos Paul was using it up a gear from where he would have been normally because it was just too much power down low. He was literally trying to pull the power back by running a gear higher to make the car more controllable. If you did that the way it was just now, it was slow. It was just didn't feel grunty at all. If you got it up past 4,500, 5,000 RPM, it was all good. So anyway, I'll get it back together, and the video will carry on, and hopefully it'll be fixed, and it'll be back on the dyno, and we'll get our 100 horsepower at 3,500 RPM. Not going to hold my breath too much. It is a race car, and it's been pretty good at throwing rubbish at us lately, so we'll see what we come up with. All good. It's day 2, and it's basically fixed, I think. So I've got it all reassembled there, and what we need is some oil in it, and crank it over, turn the ignition on, and we'll see what happens. Should be good. It's all been cranked over by hand, and all the valve clearances and everything were all checked beforehand, so hopefully that's that resolved, and then we'll see if we can get the variable cam timing to work. There may still actually be a problem there because the other bank didn't seem to be working, even though it probably should have been. So that could be an issue to do with the frequencies, running those little solenoids that you see. That one on the top of the head there with the green plug, and the other one on the other side with the grey plug. They're the ones that run the variable cam timing. So anyway, while it was apart, as you do, the torque plate that runs across from that side across to that side there, that has now got some more holes in it, because we might as well make it lighter while we've got it on the bench. So I put half a dozen holes extra in that. Probably took 500 grams out of it or something like that. Not a big one, you just do it while you're at it. So it's well and truly time for me to go and have some lunch, so I'll do that. I'll put some oil in it and kick it in the guts, see how it goes. Then I'm going to get my hands on another one of these Link Can Lambda units, measure the exhaust gases, so I can have a little bit of a play with it here rather than putting on the dyno, and just make sure we put our mixtures in the ballpark of being correct. A great little unit. There's just 2 wires to run into the computer, and one for power, one for earth, and that's it. And you set it up in the computer, you tell it to go looking for that, and Bob's your uncle. Works. You have I think you can have up to 8 channels, so we only need 2. So quite late in the day now, it's dark as you can see. we've got fella turned up. That's Kelvin from Cartoon Company, and he's come along, and we've got some goodies. We've already put part of the goodies in there. That's the other sensor that we need, and this unit right here is called a Link Can Lambda. So as it sounds, it's a lambda unit for measuring the oxygen in your exhaust system, and it uses a CAN system to communicate with the ECU. So there's only 4 wires. There's power and there's ground and there's your 2 CAN wires, and basically you stick your sensor up its bum like that, you plug it in, you plug in that unit there with its power supply and everything, turn everything on, follow the procedure, which takes what, 2 minutes. Just goes looking for that unit, says, oh, that's that there, what do you want to call that? And you say, I want to call that lambda 2 because that one's lambda 1, and there you go. And you can do that 8 times. You can have 8 lambdas.
That one should be 950 on the ID, CAN ID, and this will be 951, so that's 950, this is 951. So the ECU knows which side it's going to, so it identifies it. And then you can allocate what cylinders are running off which lambda.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the average.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easy.
So, updating Cripes, where was I? I needed to get some oil. So I did that, and I put some oil in, and it's running, and it sounds pretty good. So the VCT, variable cam timing, still needs a little bit of fine tuning to make that operate correctly. However, both sides are functioning if you bypass the software, so that you just run those little solenoids that I've talked about before, the one by the dipstick there and the one over there with the green plug. Turn those on, and you can see in the system the cams both advance the same amount, approximately 40 degrees according to my dodgy maths. So yeah, Calvin and I have been having lengthy discussion on the ins and outs on how to make all that stuff work, and we reckon we've got it sussed. We've double checked TDC on the engine and remarked the pulley down there just to confirm those marks were correct. I'll check base timing tomorrow. So a pretty hard case, 400 kilowatts at the hubs, 17 psi on 23 valves. So here's our glorious model holding our
and sufficient oil pressure, because it was just dumping oil straight out the end.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yet it still had enough oil pressure, and the cam isn't all scored up. It actually looks in okay condition considering it had an oil pressure leak. That's phenomenal.
Says something about the oil, doesn't it? Hint, hint. Hope Paul watches this. So.
That's right. The fact that oil's working, isn't it? It's doing its job.
Oh, it has to be.
Because there's less oil there than there should be.
Yeah, heaps less. So, oh yeah, while we got the camera and while we got things on the bench and stuff, here's the inside of a variable cam timing gear for anyone who wants to know what goes on inside there. So this particular one has a piston mechanism that locks it at 0 or whatever. I can't move this now because that piston has dropped down, and you won't be able to do that very easily. You have to lift up that centerpiece just a little bit, just so the piston drops away, and then it'll rotate.
Not succeeding.
Oh, fail. Apprentice fail. Hang on.
I spend too much time wiring.
Let the boss show you how it's done. Oh, I can't do it one hand though. Hang on, this is a bit of a comedy. Oh, he's going to do it that way. It fell out. You just put it back on there. That's it. There you go. So the cam's bolted to there, and there's a dowel in the back side of that. There it is. That goes into the front of your camshaft, which is there, that little hole there, which actually looks a bit gnarly on that one, doesn't it, really? Does that look like it's been loose?
I think it's just a light, actually.
Yeah, it's just a light.
No, there is a little bit. Look.
Maybe. Maybe that's been... Yeah, never mind.
That's another degree.
Who knows where that's come about. So yeah, that's how they work. Oil pressure goes in there. We're not going to get into that. That gets all techo. But basically you put pressure on one side, and then if you put pressure here, it goes that way. You put pressure there, it goes that way. So that's how that works. There you go. You learnt something. Rightio. We'll carry on from this later on. Say goodnight, Kelvin.
Good night, guys.